the other thing I love about this concept of using story, not just to connect, but what you're talking about is using this concept of story, which humans are just so good at, to be more intentional. Because when I tell people you have to be intentional instead of reactive, what does that actually mean? Like, that's not tangible for most people. But what you're doing is making it tangible by using storytelling to teach telling a story, right? Like to make it work, right? Using storytelling as the method to teach intention.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I am so excited to have Divya Parekh with me this morning because we've been doing all sorts of things together and working together, and I can't wait for you to hear her story, hear her approach, hear her advice, right? All of the things. So Divya, before we get into the conversation, why don't you tell everybody a little formal introduction to who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Erin. So excited to be here with you. So I'm Divya, and I usually say, what is my essence? What makes me? Who am I? So I love to look up to ocean. I am a nature fan, and I aspire to be ocean, which may be very okay, ocean, how does that work? So to me, the biggest thing about ocean is it's fun. Think about it. We go to the beach and it can be frolicking. It can be having fun and just being gentle. I'm not talking about the times when there are thunderstorms or tsunamis.
Perfect. Not the perfect storm time.
Not the perfect storm time. And at the same time, think about it. It's a full ecosystem that nurtures our world. Without the oceans, we would not be alive because that's where the water evaporates and there's the whole cycle of the water going and the whole ecosystem. And that's who I aspire to be. And to me, impact is the primary thing that creates the fire in my belly. That's what makes me get up in the morning. So what I do is I come from a science background and a neuroscience background, moved into coaching. And what I do is I help leaders, experts, and entrepreneurs create a very quiet, confident narrative. And I talk about quiet confidence is because that confidence is coming from within you. And you are very comfortable in the narrative that we create together. You step into it and get recognized as a trusted leader.
I love how you said quiet confidence. I use the term calm confident, and I always get in trouble because with my background, everything gets related to dogs or working out. But I used to train rescue dogs, and I used to teach the other volunteers at the shelter how to train the rescue dogs. And because those situations are highly emotional and volatile, it kind of creates this microcosm where you can see things very clearly. And when you are not calm or not confident, that gets reflected back to you, right? It gets reflected back to you in crazy dogs. I can imagine in companies, it's the same way. If the leader doesn't have quiet confidence, whatever it is that they do have gets reflected back to them.
Absolutely. And you've been in the corporate world yourself, Erin, and you know that if the leader is chaotic, it's contagious. For example, let's just kind of it doesn't matter whether you are a CEO of your own business, and if you're chaotic, you are not clear about what you want to do, and you are stressed out about something, and what somebody could be delivering. Let's say if you're having a team meeting with your graphic designer and with your copywriter or whoever's on your team, and they're like, oh, is it done? Is it done? Is it done? Like, why haven't we done? And you don't even give them that space to speak up. So then if you're on the edge, you're edgy, then everybody else becomes edgy. And the whole environment becomes so stressful and toxic. And then people are not able to say what they're thinking. It's not a safe space. And it creates chaos and dysfunction throughout.
I was going to, and one of the things I talk to a lot of people in the DEI space, I talk to a lot of people in the HR space and leadership training, and too many people think, well, who cares? I can do what I want. But this is affecting your bottom line, right? Like, I always go back to what's the outcome? What's the outcome? Not just the interpersonal outcome of the crazy rolling downhill, but the financial outcome.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't realize it, that what's going on within becomes the expression of what's going to show up in your life. And I'm not going to go here in the law of attraction or secret over here.
Right.
Just let's look at it practically. Okay, so now you have this brain, which is designed to survive. It's not designed to thrive. And here's one of the fascinating things that I just learned recently. I love research. So I keep up to date, like, what's new things are coming up. By the time we are 35, 38 years old, 95% of what we do is automated. And we would
it's so I just happen to be rereading Atomic Habits. So I'm so there for you right now.
Yeah. So if everything is automated, then your willpower, your conscious decision making, where's it at? It's only 5%. So the key is bringing that mindfulness back into your life. And that's where we talk about having that quiet confidence. And what's your narrative? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in your life? What is it that you don't want to do? So, for example, I'll just share, I was recently talking to one of the entrepreneurs that I'm helping write a book. And they're like, oh, I was sitting down thinking about this chapter and I did not know what it's going to be about. I'm like, okay, let's look at it from another way. What is it that you don't want it to be about? And similarly, who do you don't want to be? How do you don't want to show up? How do you don't want people to perceive you? What thoughts do you don't want in your life? What do you not want to manifest in your life? And that's the easiest, because believe it or not, our brains go more towards negative thoughts than the positive thoughts, because it's so much easier to worry. It's so much easier to get upset. Oh, let's say somebody calls you from the call center. Oh my God, why are they calling? Think about it. There's a person behind there. You can say, I'm not interested, nicely, because somebody's getting paid out of that. And rather than traumatize them. And this is the change that happened with one of my clients. One of my clients was working in a call center, and as we were talking, when we were having our coaching session, she was crying. I'm like, what happened? Oh, today, 5 people yelled at me. What the heck are you calling? And that was like a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, okay, sometimes I maybe could. So now I take 2 extra minutes. Okay, how are you doing? And I want to very politely request you to take me off the list because I'm not interested. So same thing, you're telling them something. And if you can say that gracefully, thinking about that there is another person on the end of the other line, doesn't take much. It's that kindness you can extend to someone.
So too often times, and I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with all of it. But too many times I think people view kindness is weakness, or if I'm nice to you, you're going to take advantage of me, or, right, they don't see, we all want to know what's in it for me, right? We all want to know the best way to get people to change their behavior is what's in it for them, right? So how would being kinder, calmer, more confident help the individual who's doing it? Not just thinking, oh, well, why should I make their life better? Who cares? But how does the person who's behaving that way benefit from that behavior?
Great question. So let's talk about what kind of narrative do you want to create for your life? Fast forward your life, a simple exercise, 10 years from now. How do you see yourself? Let's say if you remove all the constraints from your life. So 95% of the people that I've asked this question say, oh, I want to be happy. That's one of the main things that people share. Oh, I want to be relaxing. I want to have freedom. I want to be having fun. I want to travel. I want to have a ton of money. I want to spend time with my family, enjoy time with friends, dine. So our dreams and requirements for having a fulfilling life are very similar. And people want to make an impact. And one thing I want to share with you is that what's in it for you? There's a whole circuit. And one of the most renowned scientists, Richard, says that, like, one of the brain has different circuits. And one circuit is specifically designed for helping others. And I guarantee you 95% of the people feel good when they help someone. So you're not doing any kindness because you're doing a favor to someone, you're doing a favor to yourself because you're going to feel good. And when you feel good, okay, let's look at it. What's in it for you? When you feel good, you have happy hormones being released. I'm not going to go down into the full biochemistry.
Dopamine, right? Yeah.
And when happy hormones are released, guess what happens? Your body feels good, you get good health. And if you're happy, I mean, that's what you're working for. Why do you work from 9 to 9 if you're an entrepreneur? Why do you work 24/7? Because that gives you that satisfaction. So why not go for the low-hanging fruits and think about the long term?
I love that. Being nice to other people is low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Right. So many people act put out, but truthfully, being nice to other people, helping other people, being of service is actually low-hanging fruit in improving your own feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I read that
anytime. No money, no energy, nothing.
I read this, and I'm sure you've read Map of Consciousness. I forget Hawkins, right? So I read that, and his 2 pieces of advice on how to raise your vibration, right? How to do that is grow something. And then his other piece of advice was always let the other person in traffic. Always let the other, and I thought about that. I'm like, what? And I'm in Chicago. I'm thinking, what? But one of the things I noticed after I read that was, if I'm in a good mood, I always let people in.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in a bad mood, I don't. So what if cause and effect was reversed? What if letting people in put me in a good mood?
There you go. There's the what's in it for me. Think about, like, you're walking down a trail, and if you just smile at someone, it doesn't do. And of course, here's what I'll share. Like, there are a lot of people who will not smile back, and you'll be like, oh, I smiled and they didn't smile back.
There's other countries where they think we're weird.
So what if they didn't smile back? Think about it. Children, and the reason I'm always talking about evidence-based, research-based things is, like, when we are a child. So generally, children smile anywhere between 350 to 400 and plus times. And as adults, we only smile very few times during a day. And actually, let me ask you this, Erin. If I were to tell you that you can get 20 grand for free, would you say yes?
Yes.
See, so now if you were to have 20 grand in your pocket and the happiness you would get, you get the same benefits just by smiling. So think about it. If you were to smile multiple times during the day, you'll be a millionaire every single day.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Ready Yet podcast brought to you by Conquer Your Business. With decades of experience, Conquer Your Business creates business and branding strategies that build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. And we don't just show you what to do. We have an entire team of people available to help you do it, strategy and implementation. You can learn more and reach out to us by visiting conqueryourbusiness.com. It's so true, because what you're describing, like, one of the things I've always said, my mom and I laugh about this because we always have fun. We always have fun. You can have fun standing in line. I'm not saying standing in line is fun, but I will tell you that I once won several $100s in a slot machine while standing in line in Vegas. So sometimes standing in line is fun. But like, as I'm listening to you, it goes back to, there's nothing external to prevent me or create my happiness. I don't have to wait. I could just start smiling. I could just choose to be happy. I could just do the things now that feel good, that make me happy.
Absolutely. Let life in. Because remember, and I don't want to sound dismal over here, but we all keep on going through life at this fast pace and unhappiness as if we are immortals. And it's a sobering thought, and yet it brings back that gratitude. We don't know. Like, one thing is, we don't know when our expiration date is. None of us know. So why not let that life in and be happy in the moment? And I'm not saying that you're going to be Zen at all times. Nobody can be Zen at all times, but think about it.
Right. Now, we're not talking about being delusional. We're talking about being happy.
Let's say if you're happy even 20 minutes a day, isn't that better than being unhappy 24 hours a day? Just start out with tiny, and going back to Atomic Habits, I'm really a fan of that book as well. Start out from 0 to 5%.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to be happy for 5 minutes today.
Well, and one of the things that I'm hearing as a theme is how the people are all interconnected. Like everything you've talked about as a leader, and you have a team, or when you're smiling and someone's smiling back at you and being of service and helping other people, and David Hawkins with letting other people, like, these are all relationships. Like, so much of getting to these places and having these outcomes, it's people dependent, not thing dependent, right? It's relationships that create these outcomes.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Erin. And it's important to have your core values. So when we talk about having your own narrative, we talked about what is it that you don't want. And when you go through that process of elimination, you're going to come down to probably 15, 20 core values. And I always recommend, keep on chipping away. What are your top 5 guiding principles or 5 core values, whatever you want to call them, that guide your life? So for example, for me, having meaningful relationships is one of my core values. So to me, it's not just about going like, hey, what can you do for me? It's about like, okay, this is another person. Even if it's a small interaction, in that minute of time, how could we have a meaningful relationship? How could we walk away? Oh yeah, I talked with a nice person today. And even if it's not a nice person, I talked with a decent person. I talked with a courteous person. It doesn't matter.
Give them the benefit of the doubt. Err on their behalf. It's
Exactly.
so interesting. Like, so I know you, we do business together. And so I know one of the things that you have coming up that I want to get to, but now it makes more sense to me because you were telling me about how you have a storytelling academy, a storytelling, and we'll get into this, but here's where I want to make, now it all connects. The way that humans connect is through stories. And so now learning you actually, hearing you actually articulate that relationships is one of your core values. Now I totally understand why that would be so paramount and exactly on the forefront of your mind, because it is how people connect.
Exactly. And what kind of story are you building for yourself? And you may be like, my story? Yes, you are the protagonist in the movie of your life. You're writing your chapters. Now it could be chapter for today. Let's say there's whatever, June 2023. Then you look back, how was that month? And one of the things I always ask my clients to do is like, when you're coming back, especially the first time clients, is that I want you to remember how many remarkable moments did you have between our sessions? And that will help you determine your story. Because if you find that, oh gosh, I lived 5 days of my life and I don't know what kind of, I just went through life. So that's again creating the story that you as protagonist, what kind of character you're going to have. Which people are going to be in your life? Are you going to allow toxic people in your life? And these are the characters, and you may be saying like, oh, this is like, a movie. So your life is a movie. And when you start thinking about it as a story and building your narrative, you'll find that like, I don't want, because when you're sitting and watching Star Wars, you don't want Darth Vader in your life. And when the hero triumphs over the dark, you are like cheering on, yay, yay, yay. So why not cheer for yourself? So that's when I talk about storytelling is also about creating that narrative for yourself, creating that narrative for your team. And then of course, as we expand is rather than, because let's go back to it. When I talked about the ocean, it became so much more interesting. Like, oh yeah, I get it. What does she mean by impact? Or if I were to tell her like, let me just kind of share a story over here. That, for example, how much I love storytelling. When I was a kid, I used to write a lot of short poems and short stories. And every time anybody came to our home, my parents didn't have to parade me like, oh yeah, our daughter can do this or that. Usually that's what kids do. Oh yeah, let's say, hey, sweetie.
I've watched my niece on the piano recital many times. Right? Yes.
So I would be just kind of gushing in and like, yeah, I wrote a new short story, and I'd be sitting and telling. And then later on, my mom said, like, a lot of people would be patient because you were young, but you put them through. And she would always tell me, no, don't come out and share your stories. But like, I was so
contain yourself.
So passionate about it, I couldn't contain myself. So that's about it. Like, what's your passion? What's the purpose in your life? Because every story has a theme. Every story has a goal. So for example, when you talk about Star Wars, usually it is that the truth triumphs over the lies, or the good triumphs over the evil. So same thing. What is the theme? What is the goal of your life? Like, do you want to be happy? Do you want to create an impact? What do you want in your life? Create that narrative, create that story. And now to do that, you got to connect with people. So as you mentioned, relationships. Yes, relationships are paramount. How do you influence other people? Whether you are sharing data, whether you're creating your brand story, whether you are doing sales. So rather than like, going in like, oh, my product is so good, it's going to do this X, Y, and Z. If you had a story and
the other thing I love about this concept of using story, not just to connect, but what you're talking about is using this concept of story, which humans are just so good at,
Mhm.
Be more intentional. Because when I tell people you have to be intentional instead of reactive, what does that actually mean? Like, that's not tangible for most people. But what you're doing is making it tangible by using storytelling to teach telling a story, right? Like to make it work, right? Using storytelling as the method to teach intention.
Absolutely. And let me just kind of share very quickly, like, you can have either a linear narrative structure where events are unfolding in chronological order, or you can have a story so I'll share a story. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, oh, what is like one of the biggest mistakes you've made? And I'll share that, like, one of my first companies, when I moved from the corporate and transition into the entrepreneurial world, I had started a company with one of my other partners. We were so gung-ho, like so passionate. Like, I can tell you, like, you could not find any more passionate people than us. We were so passionate that we were so sure. We were so sure that what we were going to give women, like, we were going to do a women's leadership workshop. Oh my goodness, we've got so much to offer. We are just going to, like, knock this out of the park.
Right out the gate. Yeah.
We sent out like multiple cards. We reached out to multiple people, like, yeah, you're coming. And people said, yeah, we are coming. And of course, we thought, like, yeah, we've got, like, almost 50 to 75 people coming in. We booked a huge room. We had like a nice music because we were going to have some, just fun exercises. We had like beautiful, beautiful food laid out. And guess what? Only 2 people showed up because we had not confirmed. We had not asked them for the money. So now when I tell that, you'll remember that, oh yeah, Divya made mistakes. So that's the power of a story, rather than me telling you, like, oh, in marketing, you got to do 1, 2, and 3.
Total. I have the same thing. I do keynote speaking, I do podcast guesting, I do so much training on marketing and messaging and business strategy. And one of the stories, one of the situations that gets me more response than anything, I could teach things for 8 hours. But as soon as I say, in 2018, I made $11,000. And by the end of 2019, I was making multiple 6 figures. And I tell that story, aha.
Yep, people connect with
now I'm relatable. Now I have, right? It's so much more impactful.
It is, because you have experienced the failure. People don't feel like, oh gosh, she's already doing so well. How is she going to be able to help me? She's not going to understand where I'm at. And this is actually very interesting, where one of my clients told me, like, oh, you've already achieved it. You're doing so well. Like, you wouldn't understand. I said, listen, I had a really good business going. And then I fell down. And when I broke my right shoulder in multiple places, I went into a debt of like around 40K. I went into negative. I pulled out of it and then went back to thriving my business again, which is again kicking and screaming now. So we all have that. So this is again goes back to storytelling, is making it personal. And when you make it personal, you're just sharing. And when you share, you don't have to sell.
I love that. I absolutely love that. One of the things that I say is put the conversation back in your sales conversation. When you make it personal, I love that. When you make it personal, you don't have to sell. When you make it about connecting and serving, you don't have to do any of the things that have the negative connotations of selling. It just makes everything so much easier.
Absolutely.
So if people want to continue this conversation with you and learn more about storytelling and all of the other ways that you help folks, and highly recommend, because I know all the ways that you help folks, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Well, if you're looking to connect with me and my team, you can reach out to us at entrepreneur.divyaparekh.com. And there's a form where you can book a call with me. And what I believe is it's meeting you where you're at. And what are your needs? It's not about my programs. Like, I may have 10 programs, but not everything is right for you. It's more prescriptive as to what is it that you need. And we can have a conversation. You learn each other's story. And if you're the right fit, who knows? I may be connecting with you and be delighted to serve and support you in your success.
Awesome. And we will make sure we have those links in all of our show notes. Thank you for joining me, for your insight, for your energy, for your explanation of things. I love your approach to it and your depth of understanding. So thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Erin. It was such a joy to being here with you.